neighborhoods, public places, churches even. We find this also in terms of youth sports. We find it in homeowners associations. I mean, when the people of God are reaching out and saying, the neighbors across the street, the husband now says he's a woman and they're having a slumber party. Can our kids go over for the slumber party? Because this is very peculiar, right? Mm-hmm. And they're asking for clarification and guidance. And this is where, like, prudentially we can draw from the church's teaching and say yes or no.
Mm-hmm. Well, how would we approach it then?
Yes.
In your work here, how do we approach that kind of situation?
Yes. So I would say let's go back to the early church. And what do we see with our forebears in terms of the faith? Well, the early Christians, Rome and Roman civilization thought that they were peculiar because they refused to participate in the games because they were violent and oftentimes led to death. They would not participate in the bacchanalia, which are basically orgies. Mm-hmm. So the Christians removed themselves from public events that violated human dignity, violated love, violated the moral teachings of God. And so oftentimes Christians were approached with suspicion because, especially in the ancient world, you were defined by your participation in the community.
Right.
And so Christians would absent themselves because they could not be a part of it. They would be accomplices to evil. And it would show us support. So if this is the legacy we've received, this is the moral witness we've inherited as Christians, then I would say we look at the world today, and there are times in which, yes, we are still called to go out in the midst of the world, to share the good news, to be salt, light, and leaven. But there are times where I would say all of us, and especially Christian parents, have to draw the line. So, for example, in this case, no, your child should not participate in a slumber party where one of the host parents is transgender. No, you should not subject your child to that type of confusion. Let us just give some other examples that have come up that led to the book and
Sure.
the other programs. At work, there's a party at lunch for a colleague who has, quote, married another man, a man who's married another man, supposedly, right? So they have this party at lunch. Well, they don't have that party for all the heterosexuals who have gotten married in that workplace, but they have this party and everyone's expected to go. So can the Catholic Christian attend this party at lunch? And of course, the Catholic Christian saying, well, what is my boss going to think if I don't go? What are my coworkers going to think? What are they going to call me behind my back or to my face, right? Because a movement that speaks of tolerance is extremely intolerant, right? I mean, they call us terrible names, both to our face and behind our backs, and then, of course, to our church. So in this situation, can the Catholic Christian go? No. We cannot participate in anything that would normalize any type of deviant behavior, any type of sinful behavior, right? Here's what the gay movement has convinced us, is that homosexual attraction, we are falsely told, homosexual attraction is just a parallel love that a man has for another man. So if one man loves a woman, well, now here's this parallel where this man loves another man, right? Sexually and so on. And we've accepted this, and that's the great normalization. As opposed to, no, this is not a parallel love. There's a love that a man has for a woman, and then there is the deviant love that a man has for his male friend. And this is a deviant love, a disordered love. So it's not a parallel love. It's not, there's no normalization here mm-hmm. between the two. And I would say, and I make this argument as pastorally and as clear as I can in the book, that is the real task. Because someone can easily say, but it's just a slumber party. It's just a piece of cake at lunch. It's, and so on, and it's okay. Well, you know what? It was just pork for the Maccabees, right? It was just a piece of incense before the image of the emperor for our forebears, right? Simple acts, it would seem, that mean disobedience and ultimately denial of moral truth and of right religion. So I would say that it's time for Christians to begin to say, I will not participate in this. I will not normalize this. I will not be an accomplice to this. I will speak the truth in love. I will continue to share the gospel. I will continue to serve. As Christians, we hate no one. It's love that compels us to say, I'm not going to normalize what hurts you, hurts your soul, hurts your relationship with God. So we have to draw the line.
And one of the things that you also do in your book, you include not only laying out of the principles of how we determine right and wrong, but you also include an examination of conscience regarding each issue.
Yes.
And we have to examine our own conscience, make sure, because we know that this that certain sexual acts are inherently disordered.
That's right.
You also make sure that we examine our conscience, that we don't reject or hate these people. Never would we condone any kind of violence,
exactly,
or any kind of oppression to them because they may have a disordered
That's right.
love. But neither will we say that it's okay. Neither one of those is good behavior.
That's right.
And that we have to make sure that we tell folks around us that you cannot attack or harm people because of what's going on with them sexually.
Yes.
But at the same time, neither can we condone it.
Exactly. And Father, I want to emphasize some of the language you're using that's very helpful. So we speak of disordered love, we speak of disordered affection. It is very important as Christians that we understand that human beings are not disordered. So there is no disordered human being. There are children of God. There are disordered affections, there's disordered attractions, disordered love, as you have been using these terms. And it's important that we use that, because when we use the term disorder, everyone gets uncomfortable. Well, I can have a disordered love for food or disordered love for, whatever. I mean, we use this term constantly in our moral tradition. So when we speak of a disordered attraction or disordered love, this is just part of living in a fallen world. And in this case, it happens to be, this is applied to same-sex attraction, which means the person has to acknowledge that. Now, I say that because once we make the distinction that there's not a disordered person, right, there are disordered affections and love and so on, then what happens is we can recognize the dignity of every human person. And this goes to your point, Father, which is, I say when I preach on these matters, as Christians, we are not permitted to hate anyone. And if anyone were to attempt to harm another person, as a Christian, I will be the first to defend that person, even if that person is my enemy, even if that is the person who's calling me horrible names. As a Christian, I am bound to protect the dignity of another. This is why we protect the unborn. This is why we protect the vulnerable. This is why we protect those with special needs. This is why if someone attacks another human being, as a Christian, we seek to protect that person. Right. So absolutely, and to emphasize vehemently, as Christians, we do not hate, we do not cause violence. We speak the truth in love, because it's very important that the person understands what will bring peace, what will allow for true love, what will grant harmony in terms of our relationship with one another.
Yeah, and the relationship with God our Lord.
Amen, yes.
These issues that have to deal with the beginning of life, that tend to be about sexuality and the role of abortion, and end of life, and family. These issues have principles within human nature.
Yes.
This is hardwired into human nature. But then there are other issues that you bring up that are not part of human nature, but of the various kinds of situations we find the modern world in. I would mention as an example what you write in regard to immigration.
That's right.
Immigration is not an issue in, say, nomadic areas of the world. Nomads don't have borders, but nations do. And so we have new problems. Talk about